Morning, everybody.
Morning, guys. Come and say hello in the comments if you're watching. It would be lovely to see you. Happy Friday. It's very rainy and miserable here. Never mind. At least it's Friday.
It's dry here now. We need the rain, so I'm glad.
You need the rain.
Yes.
Have some of ours.
Garden.
How are you doing? Caroline Cooper, everybody. Lovely to have you here.
Morning, Helen.
Oh, so nice to have you on.
How are you
doing, Helen?
Baking.
Oh, yes, your cake baking. And how is everything going at Cricket Club as well? I'm interested to see. They've been recruiting for some sales and events people. Morning, Delphine. Nice to have you on. So I will introduce you to Caroline Cooper from Naturally Loyal. It's so great to have you here. Caroline and I have worked together for a good few years now.
We have.
Yeah. And yes, do you want to tell us a bit about your background and all of that?
I will. Yes. So I've worked in hospitality for more years than probably I want to share here.
Admit.
Probably when I was 13. And my career has been mainly, I've worked in operations, but my career has mainly been on the training side and particularly management development. Had a little break from hospitality recently, came back just at the wrong time really, but there we go. And today we're going to be talking about customer service and how our team influence customer service. And for me, I think that the two are just so interlinked. So although my sort of key area is management development, it has such a strong bearing on customer service. I think that you can't really talk about one without the other.
Same as sales, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Like they just all intermingle, yeah.
So Helen, I can see that you're baking. What are you baking? Going well, super duper busy, which is really good. Excellent.
That is good. Yeah, we're all kind of in the opposite issue problem that what we've had over the last year. Everybody's absolutely rammed, which is great, and we can't complain. My colleague Fem said yesterday we cannot ever moan about being busy ever again.
I know. So true. That is so true.
Well, it's fab to have you on. Tell us a little bit about how you got into customer service and leadership development.
Yeah. Well, leadership development was probably actually just a natural progression from what I had been working on earlier in my career. But how I got into the customer service element is that one thing that I realised is that people often don't realise when they need some help with their management skills. And people don't like being told that they're not a good manager. And people don't say, oh, Caroline, I need some help with my leadership skills. So it was something that I actually found initially was a harder sell, if you know what I mean. I mean, everybody here, if you're in sales, you know exactly what I mean by that. So people
didn't realise they needed it.
Rather than what they needed. So that's how I ended up, almost by accident, focusing on customer experience and customer service, because people did see the importance of good customer service. So if I'm really honest, I fell into it, but then I realised that I really enjoyed doing it. But now that since the start of lockdown, because most of our clients didn't have many customers to be serving, I switched the focus back to my background, which is leadership development, because it was a perfect opportunity during the lockdown for personal development. And I realised that I'd quite missed focusing on that area. So now I do a little bit of a mixture of both. And as I said earlier, the two are sort of intertwined really. So it works well in that mixture.
Absolutely. Hi, Fem. Great to have you on. Helen is baking celebration cakes. Oh my gosh, 12 hours a day, Helen. Oh dear. Oh. Well, maybe you do have the right to be a bit moany sometimes if you want to be.
Fantastic. It's fantastic to hear that you're busy. It's really good news.
So, and what sort of businesses do you tend to work with, Caroline?
I tend to work with smaller hotels, privately owned or maybe part of a small group. So they may be owner managed, or they may have a GM there, some of whom do functions, some less so. It's a lot of the businesses that I work with tend to be geared up more towards tourism, but some do some smaller weddings. I also do work with, so for this week, for example, I've been working with a golf club. They do a lot of function work there as well. And we've been focusing, actually, on the session that I did was about driving sales, primarily with their members. I'm also doing work at the moment with a vineyard, which I was telling Kate about earlier, doing some mystery shopping visits for them, and I'm really looking forward to it. So it's not like just one or two mystery shoppers. It's 20 couples that I'm organising for mystery shoppers throughout the summer. So that's a nice and meaty project for me. So really where they are either they're more about it's what I would describe more as a visitor attraction than it is for events.
Yeah.
So it's quite a mixture, really. Anywhere where we're going to have visitors, so visitor attractions, so leisure businesses as well as hospitality businesses.
Amazing. And customer service is such a it's obviously really, really important, but a lot of businesses put different emphasis on the importance of it, I feel like, some of them, and also people have different views of what that looks like, I imagine.
Well, I think actually the different views about what constitutes good service as well, because I think for a lot of us, we think it's blatantly obvious. But what I find is that for team members, particularly if the team members don't necessarily match the demographic. So if you've got somewhere that employs a lot of youngsters, they don't necessarily recognise instantly. We have to help them to realise that. So if I just take the golf club where I was on Tuesday, they have got a lot of youngsters there. They're a lovely team, and they're actually a fairly stable team considering their age. But their members are sort of predominantly, more mature gentlemen in the main, and therefore they have slightly different expectations about what constitutes good service. Now, James, who is the GM there, has done a really good job in terms of marrying those two up. But I think that sometimes we take it for granted that people realise what actually constitutes a good customer experience and our guests' expectations. And I think the thing about now is that expectations have changed. So customers' expectations back in February of last year, they're now quite different. They have got different expectations. So as well as all that pent-up demand, they are probably going to be even more demanding than they were previously.
Oh gosh, what have we got ourselves into? Okay, so how has that changed? What have you got any kind of idea of what those demands might look like, or how it's?
Yeah, I think from a customer's point of view, the expectations have changed because obviously, if we think about our offering, that has changed. So in terms of our capacity, for example, the systems processes that we have to have in place, so that has changed. And hopefully that's only going to be for a limited amount of time that we're in that situation. But I think that in terms of customers sometimes don't get it, what those constraints are. So that puts extra pressures on your team.
That's so true. Yeah. There's a bit of an education from both sides. What's good customer service looks like and what are our limits?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do we say that in a polite way that no, you can't have that because you're breaking
so
the law,
ridiculous.
for example. Yeah. And I think the other thing that we need to bear in mind at the moment is that for our team, if your team have been on furlough for anything up to about 14 or 15 months even, because if they went on furlough right at the very beginning and been on furlough all of that time, their priorities in life have changed. Their skills and their confidence are probably either, because they've not been practicing the skills that they had, that they were things that they were very competent at 15 months ago, because they've not been doing it for 15 months, they may not be as polished as they were. Their confidence might have dropped. And also the whole thing about those mixed emotions that people have got about coming back to work, particularly if they've been off for a long time. So those can be anything from, yuppie, I can't wait to get back, which is good. But even that's going to be tinged with a little bit of anxiety. What's it going to be like, being on my feet all day, those long days. Physically, it's going to feel quite demanding as well as mentally. And I think also for those businesses where, not everybody has come back, like 100% of the team. First of all, that puts extra pressure on the people who are still there because you've got a smaller team. But also there's that element of survivor's guilt as well. I've survived, but, my best mate now has been made redundant. Yeah. That makes people feel just all of that is going to have an impact on people's emotions. And we know as customers, we can pick up instantly if we are whatever situation we're in, whether it's in a restaurant, whether it's in a shop, or even over the phone, you can pick up very, very quickly whether people are in a negative state with their emotions, about whether they're upset or they're angry or they're resentful or just don't want to be there. It's so easy to pick those things up. And so therefore, I think it's all important for all of us that we're aware, first of all, of our own emotions and how that might be impacting customers, but also the emotions of the rest of the team and how that might have an impact. Because the last thing that we want is for a prospect to think that actually we're not
interested or happy. Yeah.
And it might only be like one little thing. And that first impression, and if that's you answering the phone or the first time that they tip over they're going to be coming for a tour, a show round, then that's going to get picked up very easily.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you talk about survivor's guilt, and something that I've had discussions with clients along those kind of lines as well, on slightly differently on the people who have been working flat out over the last year, with most of the team at home furloughed, and there is a slight bitterness from both sides. Like, you've been at home chilling out whilst I've been working my arse off. Can I say that? Yeah, I can say that. And from the other way round, they didn't want me, they furloughed me, they wanted to keep you on. It's such a difficult dynamic to manage.
It is. Yeah.
So what can we do to help our teams then and our colleagues?
Well, I think at the moment there are sort of what I would think of as three key areas. One is about rebuilding confidence, one is about getting the team aligned, and then the third area, which we need to be thinking of, is maintaining that momentum, because there's a lot of effort going into things initially. So thinking about if I start off just by building people's confidence when they're coming back to work, hopefully these are already in place, but as your team are coming back, I think the first thing is really important to have a one-to-one with each of your team members. And that the purpose of that one-to-one is to reassure them. I've actually developed a little framework, which is the Clearer framework for having those one-to-ones.
That's great idea.
I can send a link if people are interested. It's about, so the C is for connect, the L is for listen and listen carefully to what they're saying. E is for setting expectations or establishing expectations, and that's both sides, because your team members might need some things from you. A is about agreeing any actions on either side. R is about reassuring people, because they are going to need a massive amount of reassurance. The E is for being enthusiastic and energized, so that rubs off on people, because if we're not, then they won't be.
That's great, yeah.
And the R is about setting reviews in place. So it's not just about, before they come back into work or their first couple of days back to work, but making sure that you've got follow-up meetings scheduled, so that you've got that confines of confidential space where people can be open and just feel relaxed talking about any concerns or issues that they've got. So that's the first thing, making sure that you've got some one-to-ones. This whole thing about establishing expectations, because expectations would have changed. So first of all, what does the new good look like? Because it is going to be different from how it was. If people don't know what's expected of them, but also actually, well, what's my role in this opposed to anybody else's role? Because everybody's roles will have changed in some way.
And everybody might have several roles as well. Exactly. They don't just have one anymore.
Yeah, so they're doing the job and in fact, maybe the other person, somebody else, that they're doing a job of somebody else who's still there, but because they're now working on something else, so there's that extra pressure of, am I going to do this to the standard that they expect? And there's somebody else like, I don't trust her doing the job that I used to do. So there's some resentment potentially there as well. We need to be careful of that. And I think also, in terms of rebuilding confidence, is play to people's strengths. You know where your team, with your existing team that have come back, where their strengths are. So if you obviously you can't avoid giving somebody something just because they're no good at it, but the more you play to people's strengths, then the more confident they're going to be, the easier it is for you to empower them to get on with doing a good job, the more flexibility you can give them, and the easier it is then to actually celebrate some successes, because that people are doing a good job. So all of that will help to build people's confidence in the early days. And I think that's important, just to get that confidence up to where it was before.
Yeah. Nicole saying, great points. Resentment is very prevalent if they're taking on other roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now there is a plus of that, which will help with the next point, which is about the teamwork. Because when you've got people who are, let's say that I've been doing one job and I've been doing it, really well, and I'm really proud of that job. And now we come back, Kate, you're doing that job now. So there could be that resentment. But the plus of that is that you now get to see just how challenging that job is. That it wasn't necessarily so that it can help to establish the team, build the team up. If they are now doing jobs that somebody else did before, they start to appreciate just what's involved, and that over time, may not instantly, but over time, it can help to build the teamwork. So thinking about getting the team aligned. Also bear in mind that you might have some new team members, maybe not in sales, but maybe in other parts of the business. So it's really important that they are, they get to know you and everybody else. But one of the things that will have changed is the sort of dynamic of the business. And so I think it's really important that you've got, as a team, you have got a shared purpose. So if we all understand that same purpose, then it's a lot easier that we can all still be working towards that one thing. Now, of course, that could well have changed from how it was before. And what will come out of that is that actually these are the new priorities. So for March 2021, June 2021, these are the things that are absolutely going to be our key priorities. So everybody is working towards those same goals. And then within that, if you've got some mini goals, it then allows you to have that opportunity to celebrate some successes. So have some things really on. So coming back to the building confidence, but this is as a whole team. If you've got a couple of things that actually, you're going to get that done by the end of today, you've got an opportunity to give yourself a pat on the back, celebrate that success, and then that will help to be like, actually, I can do this. That's not so bad after all. So just you pull back into things as quickly as possible.
Yeah, setting larger business-wide goals. I love the idea of that, and bringing everybody in on them. Like, we've worked with clients recently about how those bigger, larger business goals and the vision and the strategy should filter down into even the kind of most junior or even part-time team members, so they really understand and are part of that direction.
Exactly, and they know what part they have to play in it as well, and how their role is. So it doesn't matter where they are. If they're in the pot wash, they still have a really critical role. It doesn't matter. They all have a part to play. So it's important that people realise that. And I think that then links in with the, people not only has the business changed, but individuals have changed. Whole year or months. So people's priorities in life have changed, and their roles have changed, which we've already talked about. They may also have developed some new skills. I'm just thinking Helen's here, and cake baking, that's
absolutely.
There are lots of new skills that people have picked up during furlough. So I think the other thing to do is that, or even if your team is exactly the same people in your team that you had last year, the people within those teams have changed. So it's therefore important that actually now I'm working with Kate. Kate is not the same Kate that I worked with 15 months ago. You've got different priorities. You've got different responsibilities as well. So it's important that I realise where those are. But also you've got some strengths that can really help me in my new role. Now, if I don't know what those strengths are, and when I can go to Kate rather than I can go to Kem or to Helen or to Nicole or whoever it is, then I will be afraid to ask. But if I know it's actually, I know Kate can help me with this. So getting the people to actually support one another within those new roles or their newly defined roles, I think is really, really important, just to getting the team to gel together again so that you're all again aligned.
And I think you're totally right with the one-to-one conversations as well. These are not conversations you can have as a team or anything. They have to be empathetic, compassionate, and really honest, and alongside learning lots of skills over the last year and kind of growing as a person and whatever else positives hopefully would have come out of it, there's also been you don't know that there's going to be a lot of grief in the country. We're obviously entering a mental health crisis. So it's reflecting on that and making sure you understand where everybody's head's at as well, and how you can support, because we spend so much time with our colleagues in the workplace. So we want to make, it's important to respect everybody's journey, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say about one-to-ones, and I think the one-to-ones are really important. It's also important to have that discussions within a team. One of the simplest things to do is to get people talking about something that they did during the lockdown that they were proud of, and then like, oh, I didn't know Kate was interested in that, and that just helps to build rapport with each other within the team, recognizing where those strengths are and where those interests are. Nicole's put that values might have changed too. Absolutely. And I think from two points of view, values of the business might have changed, but also values of the of individuals within the team as well, because of the experiences that they've had over the last 15 months or so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, a lot of these are things that need to be happening right now, but because there's so much work to do right now, and saying, we'll never complain again about being busy, that we also don't take our eye off the ball in looking forward, because we're already hearing of so many hospitality businesses who are struggling to get the right caliber of staff, and we need to make sure that we really look after the people that we've got, and that they feel that they are valued, so that they don't want to go off somewhere else. Some gaping hole in our business. So I think it's also important that actually for our team that they can see a little bit longer term, and that we put, I think, planning now about how we're going to maintain this momentum, so that it doesn't all come June or July, and you're into your 7th, 8th, 10th, 15th wedding or whatever it is, that you're getting to that burnout stage, that we're thinking about what's in place for then.
Yeah, that's so true. From conversations I've had recently, it sounds like September or October are almost fully booked across the industry already. Certainly with suppliers and more and more venues and hotels. So what does that look like in terms of staffing? How is that going to affect the teams individually and everything? And Christmas, I was speaking to a client who needed to get some staff in ready or arrange staff ready for their fully booked December that they've got. But again, like Nicole said, their values have changed, and they were saying, well, I'm happy to work with you, but I don't want to work evenings. I don't want to work weekends anymore. I've got a work-life balance. So you really have to look quite far ahead in order to plan at the moment.
Absolutely. So I've got 3 headings of things for people to be thinking about now. First of all is the obvious one, really, which is recognition. People will be working flipping hard over the next couple of months. So acknowledge that and thank people for the effort that they're putting in. It's really important, even if it's just small wins, just small things, almost on a daily basis. We're also recognising where people's strengths are, so that we can capitalise on those. We're seeking feedback. We're giving people feedback, and that's, people do like to grow, and therefore giving them feedback, not just on, when it's really good, but also how they can improve things as well. Because if they can shave 30 seconds off a task by doing it differently, I want to know about that. If it's going to make my life easier. But also asking for people's views and opinions to demonstrate that their views are important, and that they have all got a massive amount of experience that we should be tapping into. And even if that experience hasn't been with us, to be recognising that. Sorry, I'm going to come back to your point. I was wanting to read Helen's comment. I'm going to come back to it in a minute. So the second thing is in terms of demonstrating trust. And for me, trust is a two-way thing. We want our team to trust us, but that starts with us demonstrating our trust in them. So giving them some autonomy in how they perform their task, acting with integrity with the team, and showing that you care about them as an individual. It's not just all about the bottom line and how many sales we've got, but we really value them as a person and how important they are to the business. And then the third area, which I think we've had quite a lot of focus on this, particularly at the beginning of the lockdown, and it's very easy for people to sort of feel that actually, they've done everything, but it's personal development. People want growth, and they've had a lot of that during the lockdown, or a lot of people have, and therefore it's important that we don't let that just now completely all drop away. So we're continuing. Yeah, and so often with development, we think about plugging gaps in people's performance. So we tend to fix faults rather than thinking about where people are strong and where we can actually get them to excel in something, because people like to be, you know, the best they can. And I always think of your team as a bit like a football team. You know, if you've got somebody who is fantastic in goal, you then groom them in goal and you make them better and better and better, and so that until they get, you know, perfection. So that's I think where we can, longer term, we need to be thinking about that. Where are those strengths? What do people want development in? How can we stretch them? Because even if they're doing a really good job now, how do you just keep them interested? Just give them that little bit more to stretch.
I was just going to say that word, interested. What are they interested in? Because usually what people are interested in is what they end up being good at or passionate about.
Exactly. And even if it's just you know, you might think, oh, well, that might be a massive leap for somebody, but if you can just set them some mini challenges along the way so that people can test the water with things and you can give some feedback so that they're getting that. It's not like, you know, formal development coming on one of our workshops, Kate, but it could be just that one-to-one mentoring, tutoring, and it might not be, you know, it could be with any one of your team. Actually being a mentor or a buddy to somebody else in the team, that's really good development for the person who is the buddy or the mentor, because that stretches them as well. So these are all things to be thinking about longer term. Don't let those all that good work that's happened during the lockdown just fall away, because we're now back operationally. You know, we're working operationally flat out. Going through on some of the comments. Yeah, absolutely.
Helen said, I've discovered Welo Talent. If you're recruiting, it's free and it's time saving in the sifting process. I know it's not necessarily relevant, but if anyone in the short term, it's been a godsend. There's a paid version which has more tools, but I've managed on the free version. Very interesting, Helen. That's useful to know. I've never heard of that before.
Delphine said about the situation will also create real opportunity for people to step up. Absolutely, Delphine. And I think that, you know, that's really good that we recognise that and where people can step up. And it's not necessarily always about somebody stepping up, because sometimes on paper they look like the most logical person, but actually in reality sometimes that's that passion that Kate's mentioned, you know, that enthusiasm. We don't want somebody to be doing a job just because that's the next logical progression for them. Actually, it's if they're excited about it and they're enthused about it, often they'll do the job 10 times better.
Best job. Yeah. Absolutely. Helen's got a really good point here as well. Everyone seems to be wearing multiple hats, but it's important to know when you can pass that hat back at the right time for the business. It's a very fine balance. Yeah,
good. That's a really good point, actually, Helen. Yeah, I quite agree with that. There comes a point where actually, you know, and there might be some hats that people that will readily, like, actually, I don't really want to relinquish this. I've really enjoyed doing this.
Yeah.
Don't assume, because that's actually, that can be quite demotivating. You think, well, actually, do you think I've been doing a rubbish job then for the last 6 months on this?
Yeah, I was all right.
Yeah. And that I think actually when people come back as well, if there are tasks now that are a lower priority than they were before the lockdown, but there were tasks that people really like doing and were really proud of, we need to be quite careful about how we say, actually, you don't need to do that anymore. And you think, actually, that's not part of my job I really loved. So how we position that is really important, that they don't feel that what they've done in the past isn't valued.
Yeah, absolutely. Great points. If anybody's got any other questions for Caroline, then please do shout. And it was so great to have you on. Such an important topic.
Away any comments or questions that you have?
It's such an important topic, and with us starting to get busier and Helen working 12-hour days, which is really tough, the kind of opposite tough that we've had before, it's important to keep it in our minds, because customer service was always so prevalent in our minds before, and now there's so many other things like health and safety and all of that, so it's important to remember that side as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Caroline. It's lovely to have you on.
You're very welcome.
Yes, and I hope
if anybody, if there's anything I can help with, the best place to go is actually to my blog. So it's I I should have. Let me just. Why don't I put it?
You can put it in the comments afterwards, Caroline, if you'd like to.
Yeah, okay. I'll put it in the comments afterwards rather than while people are. Actually, how do I post a comment myself?
You can't do it on StreamYard.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, here we are. I've got it. I will put it up now, and if anybody wants to have a look or get in touch with Caroline, that would be fabulous. And I hope everyone has a nice.
I think most people here I'm already connected with on LinkedIn anyway. But if you're not, then we'd love to meet you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you, Kate. Have a lovely weekend, everybody. And for those of you who are in venues opening up next week, good luck.
Good luck. Yeah, absolutely. See you soon.
Bye. Bye.